What's going on, guys? So Lost Ark finally has a release date of February 11th, 2022. The lineup of classes coming at launch is set, and we know what we can expect from previous betas. Plus, others have been playing the Russian and Korean versions, so there's a lot of content out there, so we know exactly what we're in for. But some of you might be confused as to what this game is and why so many people are excited for it to launch. Because, I mean, it looks just like another Diablo game, right? Nope. And that is the exact type of assumption that we're going to be talking about today, because this game is much more than an isometric action RPG. It's actually an MMORPG that doesn't really share any similarities between Diablo, Path of Exile, or Grim Dawn other than the camera angle. Truly, this game is closer to like a Terra, a Black Desert Online, or really kind of any other action MMO that you can think of. So before I get too far, I did want to clarify, this video is going to give a high overview of the big core items that make up Lost Ark. For those who haven't heard of the game, or they might have heard of it, but they want to learn more, really aren't sure what this thing is, I will have an ultimate starter guide as well as a class deep dive video later on, so keep an eye out for those. Okay, so let's go ahead and get down to it. What is Lost Ark? So like I mentioned before, Lost Ark is a free-to-play action MMO. It released in Korea in 2018 and has since been rolled out in Russia as well. Now, up until a year ago, we really didn't know if we were ever going to get this game in the West. But after the developer Smilegate paired up with Amazon, they announced it would be landing in the West in 2022. So if you were someone who was eager to jump in, you could have been playing the Russian and Korean versions for a few years on a VPN. Now, it isn't the smoothest experience, I'll tell you that. You know, connecting to Moscow from Kansas isn't exactly a low ping or low latency, but still, you know, it worked. You have English patches, a little bit of patience, you know, dealing with some hiccups every now and then. You can do everything in the game. So just keep in mind that these two versions of Lost Ark will be different from what we're getting in the westernized one. So if you have been tinkering in those international versions, you will notice some key differences once you log in to the game on February 11th, specifically classes that are missing, which is what we're going to talk about right now. And that is what you're going to see in Lost Ark, starting with choosing a class. Now, the Western version of the game comes with 15 classes, and these are broken into base classes and advanced classes. So you have the Mage, who can specialize in becoming a sorceress or a bard, the Warrior, who can become a berserker, paladin, or gun lancer, the Martial Artist, who can become a war dancer, scrapper, soulfist, or striker, the Gunner, who can become a gunslinger, deadeye, sharpshooter, or artillerist, and the Assassin, who can become a shadow hunter or a deathblade. Now, there are some things to keep in mind here, right? That some of these are still gender locked. Amazon and Smilegate have mentioned that they plan on creating more options in the future, but for now, some of these only offer one gender to choose from, so that's something to be aware of. Now, you will also get to test out each advanced class before you have to choose, so don't feel like you need to make a huge decision in the character selection screen. You just want to confirm what base class you want to play as. So if you want to play as a mage and then choose between a sorceress and a bard, you choose the mage, and then you go and you test out both the sorceress and the bard to figure out which one do I really want to play as. So let's go ahead and let's break down all of these different classes and who they might best fit, starting with the Warrior. So the Warrior offers a diverse set of advanced classes. Each one fits into a part of the Trinity. So you have like a DPS in the Berserker, a support and a healer in the Paladin, and then a tank in the Gun Lancer. So talking a little bit about each one of them. Now, the Berserker is all about causing as much devastation and chaos as possible. You have high damaging skills with all the classics like cleaves, leap smashes. If you love to swing a two-hander and absolutely pulverize enemies, the Berserker is right up your alley. Then we have the Paladin, which is a support and healer role. Imagine like a holy paladin from World of Warcraft. You're going to be summoning a lot of glowing tomes, healing allies, and purging demons with fire. If you're someone who loves to be up close and in the action, but also likes to heal up the party, then this might be a great fit for you. And lastly, we have the Gun Lancer. Now, despite its name, this is actually a tank class that uses a shield and a lance, except that lance has a giant cannon in it. So the Gun Lancer is all about soaking damage and taking one for the team. You do have some cool skills that'll hook and pull enemies, some that will provide protections, and some that are pure damage. If you like to be the tank, the Gun Lancer is your only choice. Next up, let's talk about the Mage, right? So the Mage has only 2 advanced classes. but they're both really fun to play. So the first of the two is the Bard. This is your classic harp lute wielding support class that can either tear up enemies or buff up your party with music. Now, most of these abilities have some form of debuff for enemies or increase a buff for yourself and allies. So if you like the notion of being like kind of a buffing machine while also dishing out a little damage and a sick tune, then go with the Bard. Now, the second of the Mage's advanced classes is the Sorceress. Now, this one was recently changed from the Summoner, which is going to be coming at a later date. So if you did play the beta, this is a completely new class for you, well, for everybody. The Sorceress is your classic mage, right? You're gonna dish out elemental damage, be able to clear battlefields pretty easily. So if you enjoy the traditional mage look and play style, this is the one I'd go with. Okay, so we covered the mage and the warrior. Let's move on to something a little bit more unique, and that's the martial artist. So in other games, these are similar to monks, but in Lost Ark, the martial artist kind of brings a new look and feel to the class with 3 advanced classes. The first one is the War Dancer. Now, this class is one that offers lightning fast attacks that build up over time and allow you to unleash huge damage to enemies. And this class harnesses the power of the elements and channels them into their attacks. Basically, imagine a mage, but with huge gauntlets that they use to pound enemies into the ground. If this sounds like fun, consider picking up the War Dancer. Next is the Striker. This one is the most pure martial artist class, in my opinion. It's the one that offers the most simple yet effective skill set, featuring straight punches, kicks, leaps, and smashes. There really isn't anything crazy about this one. It's very to the point, effective, and extremely fun to play. So if you prefer like a Shaolin monk style experience, the Striker is your best bet. Then we have the Soul Fist, who is going to weave together melee and ranged attacks for insane combos. And these are going to completely shut down enemies. They channel something called Adamance, which will improve skills to make them more effective. Now, this is my favorite of all of the martial art classes because it's just incredibly fun to zip close ranged enemies for like a flurry of attacks, then leap out and unleash a big ranged attack and just clean up who's ever left. Like this one, I really enjoyed and had a lot of fun with. But lastly, we have the Scrapper. This is the straight up brawler class. They deal a lot of cleave damage. They can summon twin fire dragons that smash on your opponent, and they move extremely quickly to set up some very strong combos. Now, I do have the least experience with this class, but it's always super fun to watch someone who's skilled play this one and just destroy everything. So I think this one has a ton of upside. I just don't have a ton of experience with it. So let's talk about the Gunner next. This was actually the first class that I played in Lost Ark back when it launched in Korea. Now, I loved the mobility this class brought, and it was just such a fun time to play. But there are 4 different advanced classes for the Gunner, and each has their own identity. So we're going to start things off with a bang, literally, because we're talking about the Artillerist. So this class wields a giant cannon that can do multiple things. It's like a Swiss army knife of cannons. You just swap these things out. It can shoot flames, buckshot, launch missiles, drop napalm, even flip into a Gatling gun. But this does come with a cost because this massive weapon does make this class one of the slowest in the game. But with a gun that does all of the talking, I mean, who needs speed? You can just blow things away. You don't really need to move quickly. But if you like scorched earth and airstrikes, the Artillerist is definitely the class for you. Now, opposite of the Artillerist, which is a class that you don't really need accuracy, right? It's just scorched earth. We have the Sharpshooter. Now, this class can load different arrows that have special effects. And this was the class that I played in the last beta test in the Western version. And it was a pretty awesome time. There was a lot of really cool things that I really liked. But I personally love the Arrow Wave skill. It sends out this projectile that deals damage to anything it passes through. But this class thrives at long range and being able to deal damage without being interrupted. So if you love to fight on the back lines, then consider picking up a Sharpshooter. Now, like the Sharpshooter, we also have the Deadeye. Now, the Deadeye is a gunner class that flexes between 3 different weapons depending on the situation. You can whip out a shotgun to take care of anyone dumb enough to get close. You have a pistol that can tear up enemies at medium range, and then you have a rifle to light up enemies at any range. Now, the rifle has some seriously cool skills that deal some huge damage. And this class is one that has a good skill cap as well. Because if you like classes where you need to put some effort in to really cash in on its potential, then take the Deadeye. You have to understand what weapon is going to be best for each situation, and be able to flip between those pretty seamlessly, and then be able to use all of those different skills and weave them together to really cash in on its potential. So if that sounds like you, take the Deadeye. Lastly, we have the old Western, right? The Gunslinger. This class is all about shredding enemies at close range. You have skills that deal cleave damage, stagger enemies, even ones that dish out plasma damage over time. Now, this was the first class I played in Lost Ark, and I gotta say, it is one of the most fun classes that I've played. It's just incredibly mobile. It can pump out massive damage at any phase. It's like a rogue, but with guns. So if that sounds like you, then I would take the Gunslinger. So that wraps up the Gunner. Let's talk about the last class, which is the Assassin. So this is the one that comes with only 2 advanced classes, but they're perfect for people who love stealthy rogues, quick strikes, and channeling your inner demon. So to kick this show off, let's talk about the Shadow Hunter. This class gives you some crazy powers. You get to channel the power of demons through all of your skills. You get like a death beam. You can summon a large demon to swipe at enemies. You can throw glaives to blend up enemies into puree. It's just one of those classes that melds magic and melee together extremely well. And our last advanced class is the Deathblade. So just like the Striker is the most pure martial artist, this class is the most pure assassin. You have straightforward and simple attacks that utilize heavy physical damage, quick attacks, and being able to dissect enemies with a series of fast slashes. Now again, each of these classes has its own identity, feel, and playstyle, so please just make sure to choose the one that best fits you, because once you do, you are whisked off into the world of Arkesia. Now, when it comes to questing and leveling up in Lost Ark, you're looking at a pretty on-the-rails experience. You're going to go from hub to hub and zone to zone, completing your main story quests, along with any side quests that you might find. Now, the story of Lost Ark is actually pretty good. It's something that I paid attention to and I tried to kind of keep up with, which compared to other MMOs was different. In other MMOs, I would just spam click through everything because it's too boring, it's too convoluted, or it's just honestly not very well done. So if you're into stories, I'd recommend paying attention to the cutscenes and the quest text because it does lead to a pretty cool narrative. And if you like naval exploration, there's a ton of that in this game. So you're not just running on land the entire time. Deep into the story, you actually get your own ship and you can set this thing up with a crew and navigate the open sea. You can stop at a bunch of different islands that are kind of scattered about, interact with the NPCs there, and it's a really kind of cool experience. I like it. Also, on top of that, if you are someone who enjoys housing, you can do that as well. You get your own island to build up and improve, and here's where you can do a lot of crafting as well. Now, I'm not gonna lie. So the areas in this game, right, the ones that make up the world, they're somewhat large, but the issue here is that they aren't wide open, meaning you can't run from one side to another in a straight line. You have to travel down these kind of paths, weaving your way through everything. You can't just like run through the trees or up and over hills is what I'm getting at. So it was a bit of a bummer, right, when I first started, but you quickly get used to it and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna, kind of run down each path and I'll get there eventually. But the main focus isn't the exploration and the questing and the running around. It's the bread and butter of Lost Ark, and that's the combat. Now, killing stuff in this game is extremely satisfying. You get a strong sense of hit feedback, your attacks feel meaty, and the animations are tight and crisp. Now, this is what originally sold me on the game back in 2017. I saw the trailer and I was like, that looks incredible. And the cool thing is, no matter what class you choose, you feel powerful and you feel like your attacks are actually doing something, right? You're not swiping at air, you're not, fighting ghosts, you're actually making contact, connecting with something, and then just beating it into the ground. And there are different ways to interact with certain skills as well, right? So some are combo skills that'll require you to hit the skill button multiple times to chain together attacks. Some require you to hold it down to channel it. Others require you to hold it down to charge it. It's nothing new to the genre, right? We've seen this forever. Whirlwind is a great example. Whirlwind's been around for all of time. You just press and hold Whirlwind and you spin around, you attack things. But because of the way this is set up, this makes combat much more interactive than spam clicking a single skill over and over or holding down one button, right? If you look at other games in the industry, or in the genre rather, it's a lot of, okay, I'm gonna click 1, click 2, click 3, those all go on cooldown, so I'll wait, and then I'll click 1 and I'll click 2 and I'll click 3 again. This one is like, okay, so 1 is a chain attack, so I need to click 1 3 times to unleash, my full combo. and then I need to press and hold 2, which is going to channel this thing, and then I need to press 4 multiple times because that's another combo skill. And then while everything is stunned, I need to press and hold 6 to charge up my ability and then let go of it. That way it deals maximum damage. So you have all of these things that just make it a little bit more engaging than just pressing all your skills on an action bar in a rotation or something like that. That's one thing I definitely want to kind of hammer home, is there really aren't rotations per se in Lost Ark, but it's more of like a priority type system. But the thing is, that's just the beginning. As you level up, you're going to earn specialization points, and these points can be used to invest in certain skills in order to increase their effectiveness. But also at certain thresholds, you're going to unlock new modifiers to make them even more deadly. So for instance, on my Death Blade, I have multiple skills that'll gain a poison effect when I invest into them, which gives those skills a little bit more firepower, as well as placing a dot, damage over time, on enemies. That way they can get burned down a little bit quicker. And then other skills that I have are just going to deal more damage to bosses or increase my movement speed. And then to accompany those specialization points, you also have your gear. And your gear is going to provide stat bonuses that increase your overall combat effectiveness. And just like with any other MMO, each class will scale better with certain stats, so making sure to prioritize those will keep you on the cutting edge of each encounter rather than falling behind. Now, one thing I will say though is that each class can only wield a certain type of weapon, and they can't ever deviate from that. So for instance, my Death Blade can only wield like a dagger, sword kind of thing. And it's pretty, if you're somebody who really likes customization and being able to fine tune your character's look, it is kind of a bummer that's like, I can only equip this one thing. But I will say, you know, they do a good job with the artwork to keep things somewhat fresh, so you don't feel like you're always upgrading to the same looking weapon each time. But just know that you can't have a mace sometimes and a sword other times. That's just not going to be possible here. So talking about gear, what are all of these slots that we can equip gear into? So you have helmet, shoulders, chest, legs, hands, your weapon slot, necklace, 2 earring slots, 2 ring slots, and a skill stone. So there are quite a few slots to fill in, but that also means there's a ton of top-end endgame pieces to chase after for each slot. I mean, you shouldn't feel a lack of customization when it comes to finding new items to equip to make your character even stronger. And all of your equipped items will average out into an item level for your character, and this is going to be your progression meter for endgame. So as you equip better pieces of gear, then your item level will go up and you'll have access to new endgame activities, which is a great transition to talking about what comes after the story and once you hit the level cap of 50. So Lost Ark has quite a few things to do once you're all wrapped up with your story quests. So you have Arena PvP, which is a crowd favorite. You put your skills to the test against other players. I've heard this is super fun. Haven't done any of this myself, but a lot of people seem to really enjoy it. You have Guardian Raids, which are like this Monster Hunter style chase, where you kind of chase down this big monster creature, a Guardian, and you slay them. Then you have Abyss Dungeons and Raids, which are like your standard dungeon, multiple difficulties to play through, pretty good rewards. And then you have Legion Raids, which are like actual raids. Lots of mechanics, lots of things happening. They're incredibly challenging. And this is kind of like the shock value that we've seen in other videos for Lost Ark, when it's like, hey, is raiding difficult in Lost Ark? Yes, it's incredibly difficult. You have so many things to keep an eye on. You have all of these different mechanics to watch out for. So there's just a lot happening. So if you're someone who really likes difficult and challenging endgame, Lost Ark is definitely going to deliver in that category for you. And the thing is, those are just the big items for when it comes to endgame. You have other things you can do. You can do world bosses, chaos gates, building rapport, which is like relationships with key NPCs. You can give them gifts, which increase your kind of relationship status with them, and then they'll reward you with other things. You can fill out your adventure tome, which is like a journal. So as you go through and complete different zones or kill world bosses or find certain like hidden things, then it's going to fill in your adventure tome, which is going to unlock new items for you to claim. So there's just so much to do in this game. It's just crazy. I'll cover all of that more in depth in an end-game video, but really just know there isn't a shortage of things to do. So folks, that is it. That's a high overview of Lost Ark. There is so much more packed into this game we haven't even touched on, but these are just some ideas as to why Lost Ark has a following that it does, but is also getting the excitement and the hype that it's getting. There's just a ton in this game. And it's a high quality MMORPG, has an amazing track record of updates, community support, developer support, and just like I said, there is no shortage of things to do. It seems to have something for everyone. If you're a PvP player, you have Arena. If you are a big PvE person, you have raids and dungeons. If you like to explore, you have tons of different continents and areas to explore, as well as the naval exploration. If you're a housing person, you have your own island to go through and update and build for and decorate and do all of these things. So there's just a ton of stuff out there. So, you know, getting back to the question that this video had posed, is this something you should try? Absolutely. I mean, come on, it's free. It is a free game, a free download, and who knows, you might just enjoy it. So guys, that wraps this one up for me. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Vulkan, and I'll talk to you on the next one.
Sound off, one and all, everybody.